This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of Masculism and MGTOW. Written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 759, part 2, entitled, "Why is Masculism not spreading faster? What is holding it back?" Carrying straight on. 6. Male anger is heavily stigmatized. Female anger is often culturally interpreted as righteous protest. Male anger is often interpreted as danger. So when men get angry about gender politics, the public reaction is often, in quotes, threat, misogyny, radicalization, fragile masculinity. This creates a policing effect. Many men learn that expressing male grievance publicly can cost them reputation, employment, relationships, or social standing. Therefore, they stay quiet, even if privately sympathetic. Comment. To have your masculine consciousness raised, you need to overcome the above prejudices. Masculists preach that women oppress men worse than vice versa. So to liberate men, Masculists are out to exterminate fluffies and monoconscious feminists by converting fluffies into fips and monoconscious feminists into biconscious feminists by teaching them masculist ideas. Masculists are out to crush the taboo that men should not criticize women. 7. Many men still benefit from parts of the old bargain. Some men do not want a liberation movement because they still believe in the traditional male bargain. Work hard, provide, endure, compete, win status, attract women, protect family. Even if that bargain has become harsher or less rewarding, many men still hope to succeed inside it. They do not yet see themselves as needing political liberation. They think, in quotes, "I do not need a movement. I need to become stronger, richer, fitter, more successful." End quote. This individualist solution competes with a political solution. Comment. Masculists push masculinist awareness onto men that fluffydom is man's slavery, and man's slavery is slavery, and hence hated, a war issue, and that masculists are at war against fluffies, aiming to wipe them out by totally ignoring them, forcing them to fib up or rot on the shelf. Masculists tell men to reject traditional marriage and paternity, that is, to live the MGTOW, MGTOW, that's men going their own way, lifestyle, since one father in 4 gets butchered in the hated, fluffy feminist-dominated divorce court system. 8. Romantic and sexual incentives restrain men. A lot of men fear that openly taking a hard gender political stance will make them less attractive to women or cause trouble in relationships. Many men will privately complain about feminism, divorce law, or double standards, but publicly soften their views because they do not want to be seen as hostile to women. That is a major break, aka on anger becoming activism. Comment. Masculists preach to men that fluffies are man-slaving, divorce-raping vermin. That is not the type of woman a man should have a relationship with. Once a man has had his masculine consciousness raised, he sees fluffies and monoconscious feminists as persona non grata and avoids them like the plague, thus forcing fluffies to fip up and monoconscious feminazi bigots, that's MFBs, to become biconscious and hence become much nicer for men to be with. Once there are millions of masculists, the gender political tide will turn and this objection will die away. 9. The movement lacks a universally sympathetic victim image. Successful movements often spread around a clear victim image. Feminism used images such as the battered woman, the underpaid woman, the excluded woman, the sexually harassed woman. Masculism has possible equivalents: the falsely accused man, the alienated father, the homeless man, the suicidal man, the disposable soldier, the paternity fraud victim. But these have not yet been woven into one emotionally powerful, socially accepted narrative. Worse, male victims are often treated with suspicion or mockery. Until ordinary people can emotionally picture male victimhood without laughing or recoiling, masculism will spread slowly. Comment. Masculists push the idea that women oppress men worse than vice versa and give their big three, that is, the worst three ways that women oppress men, as examples, as a piece of masculist marketing to get the message across to men and to society that women are worse oppressors than our men. 10. Anger without discipline repels outsiders. There's another problem. When male anger appears online, it often comes mixed with bitterness, crude language, revenge fantasy, or contempt for women in general. That may feel cathartic to insiders, but it frightens or disgusts potential allies. A movement needs anger, but it also needs discipline. The Pankhursts were angry, yes, but their anger was tied to a focused political demand: votes for women. Masculism needs equally crisp demands. For example, equal parental rights, criminal penalties for paternity fraud, due process in sexual misconduct accusations, recognition of male victims of domestic violence, gender-neutral sentencing, male suicide as a national emergency, protection from reproductive coercion. Those are easier to spread than generalized anti-female anger. Comment. The Pankhursts got impatient with the traditional feminist approach of calm, rational argument in favour of women's rights, so got violent, political, terrorist, etc. And as a result, in capital letters, got a ton more publicity, thus spreading feminist ideas a lot more effectively. Masculists are going the same way. The MRM, that's Men's Rights Movement, has been preaching with calm, rational arguments for decades and have achieved almost nothing. Masculists are the male equivalent of the Pankhursts. Masculists are angry, radical, hateful, and are out to change society profoundly by creating a FIP society, a bi-conscious society, by men fairing the gender laws, or millions of women will be effectively exterminated by being forced by men, masculistic men, to rot on the shelf, manless and spermless, dying slow, miserable deaths. ... Jeet then summarized its reasoning as follows. ... So why are men not getting angrier faster? Because many men are angry already, but their anger is private rather than public, personal rather than ideological, depressive rather than activist, sexual/romantic rather than political, fragmented rather than organized, and socially punished when expressed. Men often do not move from pain to politics. They move from pain to silence. The core answer. Masculinist ideas are slowed by a combination of male stoicism, weak male group identity, reputational stigma, institutional weakness, fear of being labelled misogynist, and the absence of a simple mainstream moral narrative. The movement will spread faster only when it can say in plain, respectable language, quote, "Men and boys suffer specific injustices because they are male, and a civilized society must correct them," end quote. That sentence is much easier to sell than rage. Rage may awaken some men, but legitimacy recruits the masses. Comment. Masculists have lost patience with the above opinion, expressed in plain, respectable language. Masculist verbally violent, ideologically hateful rhetoric gains a ton more attention than does plain, respectable language. Probably what is alarming women most lately is the effective MGTOWing of men. Masculist and MGTOW ideas are spreading rapidly amongst men, especially young men, who now avoid even dating young women. Young women are now panicking that they can't find a man who's willing to even date them, let alone help pay for a woman to have kids. There are now a growing number of female masculists who make video content on the internet. But masculine awareness in the public is way behind feminist awareness, so the masculists have a lot of educational work to do to cause society to become bi-conscious. Masculists need to educate society a lot more to raise people's awareness that gender oppression is a two-way street, and that women oppress men worse than vice versa. Therefore, gender criminal women should be hated and wiped out by converting them into FIPS and bi-conscious feminists, or rot on the shelf. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Brackets. Click on the Masculist tab for 750 plus Masculist essays and their videos. Google the terms London Real and Hugo de Garis to see videos on masculism at AI will kill 1 billion people - do we create our exterminators? Professor Hugo de Garis - London Real. Brackets. See the last half hour of this 2-hour interview for the Masculist segment. Close brackets. As well as Countdown to Extinction, How AI Will Exterminate Mankind, again for the last 40 minutes on masculism. These flyers are available in text and video formats on Minds, BitChute, Odyssey, MGTOW.tv, X and YouTube. I have over 1,000 masculist videos in 16 playlists on YouTube that can be accessed by searching for the channel name, de Garis Masculist Videos, that's all one word. All 1,000 plus of my masculist videos in one long list, in most recent first time order, can also be found on X by searching the channel name de Garis Masculist Videos, that's 4 words. Ad-libbing now. Very recently I discovered that Brian Rose and his right-hand man James have put up onto YouTube nearly 20 shorts, or equivalent of TikToks, on the theme of masculism, which is great. Ciao.